Good morning, everybody. I want to be doing a small video today which deals with the interesting questions in regard to the last week of the Lord Jesus Christ in his life on earth. It's a timeline that will help us to pinpoint the events of the last few days. The first thing that we need to know and understand is that the children of Israel had a lunar calendar. We have a solar calendar, which is why in our calendar we get something like Christmas Day on the 25th of December every year, irrespective of what day of the week it is. So we can have 7 different options for Christmas Day. It can be on a Sunday, a Monday, a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or a Saturday. But that's not the same with the Easter celebrations. People say that this is a movable feast, and that's true. It is a movable feast. And the reason for that is that the Passover, the events of the Passover, are linked to a lunar calendar. A lunar calendar. And you may say, well, how do they figure out when is the actual beginning of the year? Well, you have to go back to the Old Testament to find out. And what you'll notice in the Old Testament is that 2 priests would go up to the pinnacle of the temple. The pinnacle of the temple was a very high corner with a very, very high drop right the way down to the valley floor below. And they would stand there at certain key events. They would stand there knowing when the new year is just about to come. And they would watch every night. They would watch the moon rise on the opposite side of where the sun had gone down. And they'd see the moon rise. And on the first day of the year, they would see the moon rise. It would rise for only a few minutes, and then the sun would rise on the opposite side, and the moon would completely disappear, of course, within a matter of minutes. And so that they would then blow the trumpet, and they would say, this is the new year, and that would be the first day of the year. Okay? They did something else which was very interesting, is that they would always declare that day to be a Friday. Okay? The first day of the year was always declared to be a Friday, what we call the 6th day. Okay? And the reason for that is because the subsequent days through Passover would have to fall on the appropriate days of the week. The 10th day would always be the first day of the week. Okay? And the 17th day would always be the day of resurrection. And in fact, the Passover would always be on a Thursday. The 14th is always a Thursday. Okay, in their calendar. So we need to know these basic facts to enable us to understand. And the other thing that's very important is that what we call the Holy Week is dependent on the way in which the Jews understood their days and understood their calendar. So every day started at 6 o'clock in the evening. Okay, and it went till the next day at 6 o'clock in the evening. We tend to take our day from midnight to midnight, but they took their day from 6 o'clock in the evening to the next day at 6 o'clock in the evening. These are all very important things to know. So let's start. It's Friday today. So let's start and have a look at what this is. So this is what's called the 6th day before the Passover, which was the 8th of Nisan. Okay, it was the 8th of Nisan, and it was from Thursday sunset to Friday sunset. So for the Jews, they'd already had their night, their 6th day of night, and that night would start at 6 o'clock last evening and would go right through to 6 o'clock this evening. And on that day, we have a number of very important events. I number them, so please excuse me if you don't understand what my numbering is, but this is the numbering of the events in the life of Christ. Event number 191, Christ meets Zacchaeus. This is recorded in Luke chapter 19, verse 1 to 10. And then we have the parable of the 10 servants, which is Luke 19, verse 11 to 27. And lastly, Luke tells us that the Lord Jesus proceeds toward Jerusalem. Now, in Matthew chapter 21, verse 1 to 7, we see that he sends for 2 animals, donkeys. And this is the first entry into Jerusalem, but it comes from Bethphage. And he comes on 2 animals. This is in 21, verse 6 to 9. Now, the Lord Jesus is unexpected, and the people of the city, they say, "Who is this?" This is recorded in chapter 21, verse 10 and 11. He goes in and he cleanses the temple. Okay, this is 21, verse 12 to 16. And then the last event, 198, is he returns to Bethany. And this return to Bethany is recorded by mainly Matthew, but John has a small note about it in chapter 12, verse 1. So these are the events. Notice I said there were 2 entries of the Lord Jesus into Jerusalem. This one took place on the Friday, and he came in on 2 animals, and he is unexpected. They say, "Who is this? Who is this? Who is this?" Then what happens on the Sunday is quite a different matter, because they say, "Blessed is he that cometh in the name of the Lord." Not the same event at all, and he comes on 1 donkey on that occasion. So these are the events of today. We could ask, does God count time? And the answer is most certainly yes, he does count time. He counts time absolutely to the minute and to the hour and to the day. Let me give you an example of this. The ark rested on Mount Ararat on the 17th day of the 7th month. You can look it up, it's in Genesis. On the 17th day of the 7th month, the ark rested on Mount Ararat. Now that day is a significant day, because that was also the day when the children of Israel stepped over into the land of Goshen, over the other side of the Red Sea, and with the Egyptians trying to follow them through the sea. Remember how the Lord opened the sea and they went over? When they trod onto the new land on the other side of the sea, guess what? That was the 17th day of the 7th month. Now, what Moses was told by the Lord to do was to change the months, and they would make that 7th month their first month. So this now becomes Nisan, the first month. So on the 17th day of the 7th month, it became the 17th day of the first month. So just remember this then. We've got the ark resting on Mount Ararat on the 17th day, and you've got the children of Israel stepping onto the new land on the other side of the Red Sea, with all the Egyptian army dead in the water, and they sing their song to the Lord for his deliverance from Egypt on the 17th day of the 7th month. Is that ironic? No, it's not ironic. It's actually part of the overall plan of God. And then what was the day when the Lord Jesus rose from the dead and stood in the Garden of Eden in his resurrection body? And that is the 17th day of the 7th month. Wow. So God counts time, it appears. Of course he does. He counts time. There's something else to take note of. I said at the very beginning that the children of Israel count the beginning of their years from the Friday. Or should I say, whenever they see the new moon and they blow the trumpet, this is the beginning, this is the first day of the year, they then change that day, whatever the previous day was. It could have been a Wednesday or a Friday, it could have been another Friday, it could have been a Saturday, it could have been a Sunday, doesn't really matter. but they always change that day to a Friday. Now, a Friday is a very significant day. It's the 6th day of the week. And the Friday is the day when Adam was made. He was made on the 6th day of creation. And the very next day, or it began in the evening that day, the very next day was a day of rest. It wasn't a day of work, it was a day of rest. The Lord rested, it says, on the 7th day. So there we are then. We have Friday today. It's the Holy Week, that's okay. And this is, we've got Zacchaeus, I'll get the name right in a minute. You've got Christ meets Zacchaeus. You've got the parable of the 10 servants. He proceeds towards Jerusalem. He sends for 2 animals, and his first entry is from Bethphage on 2 animals, and he is unexpected. The people shout, "Who is this? Who is this?" And he cleanses the temple, and he returns to Bethany. So these are the events recorded by Matthew and Luke and John of this day in the last week of the life of the Lord Jesus. So there we are. There's something for us all to think about and ponder on today. Have a wonderful day, everybody, and God bless you. Bye for now.